Hi everybody, Mike B here. We got several stakes races for the New York breds on Sunday at Saratoga. The feature race, though, goes as race number 10. It is the Albany Stakes. It's for 3-year-olds. They're going to go 1 mile and 1/8 on the main track. The purse is $250,000. Here is your field of 7 for the Albany. 3 horses sort of relatively closely grouped on this morning line by David Aragona. Morning line favorite is the number 2, Maker's Candy, for trainer Mike Maker. This horse comes in with plenty of credentials, a stakes winner, going 7 furlongs, 2 starts back. They stretched him out around 2 turns in his most recent start. He ran fine. He lost as a very, very big favorite, maybe with an excuse or two along the way. But this is a horse who's been, overall, he's been very consistent. He shows up. He has figures that really make him a major, major player in this race. The second choice on the line is the number 6, Drake's Passage, very lightly raced. Second out as a 3-year-old for this Albany. This will be his 2-turn debut, but he's won his prior 2 starts going the 1-turn mile on the main track. This horse just ran a fast race off the layoff, and he looks like another major player in this race. The 4, Mariachi, 5-2 on the morning line, so he's right there with the 2 favorites, and Mariachi is going to bring speed into this race. Another horse who just ran a really fast race, winning his most recent start. That was going 6 furlongs, however. He has never stretched out. He's third off the layoff now as a 3-year-old. They're going to try to go long with him here and see what happens. And to be honest with you, listen, the distance is a major question, but this is not a terrible spot to try it. Not a huge field. He looks like he will make the early lead in this race, and we'll see how far he wants to go. A little bit of pedigree to suggest he can go this far, at least on the dam side. Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector. No surprises here, and that you have the 4, Mariachi, projected to be out on the early lead as he stretches out for the first time. He's a fast horse. He just wired a field of entry-level allowance horses going 6 furlongs with a 93 Beyer speed figure. He also ran a couple of fast races as a 2-year-old. This horse clearly has talent. He is going to come out of there running and try to make the lead, and we'll just see how clear he can get and how fast they make him go early in this race, because it's not like the morning line favorite Maker's Candy is a slow horse. He is generally right up close in all of his races. The number 3, Allure of Money, he's generally been right up close in all of his races. Even the 6, Drake's Passage, who will be off the pace somewhere, but it's not like he's going to be totally outrun in this race, I don't think. We'll see if the red bar designation comes true and it's truly a fast pace. If it is, probably works against Mariachi. We'll see how fast they make him go early in this race. Let's start off by talking about the horse on the rail. Probably going to be a pretty big long shot in this race, the number 1, Leo and Royal. Not that he's done anything wrong so far in his very brief career. Only 4 starts, 3 of them this year as a 3-year-old, and he's won 2 of those. Won those races pretty easily. Took steps forward on the Beyer scale, both in the maiden win, 2 starts back going short, and then in the allowance win in his race 2 starts back over a good sealed track. It was a 2-turn route race. He got the job done relatively easily. 69 Beyer was another step forward, but it makes him, I leaves him with plenty to find. Let's just say that against this field. His most recent start in another allowance race, a distant second best to an absolute blowout winner. This horse obviously needs to improve. He's got a good post, though. Maybe falls into a trip. Maker's Candy is the 2. He's the morning line favorite, probably the horse to beat. Ran a fast race to break his maiden in his second start last year. They stretched him out to the 1-turn mile. An act that was actually earlier this year at the end of January. 90 Beyer speed figure for that win. He looked really good winning. He came right back in another 1-mile race, the Gander, a $97,000 stakes race. He won that race. He was ultimately disqualified for coming over and bothering another horse. Felt like he was best that day, but he did interfere with a rival in the stretch. So he lost that victory to the Steward. Since he's come back off of a little bit of layoff, another fast race in the Mike Lee, a 7-furlong sprint. He was right up on the pace, 88 Beyer speed figure, winning clear at the end, a good performance. And in his most recent start, the New York Derby, back out around 2 turns. His other 2-turn start was in a grade 3 on the all-weather surface against 2 fills. Obviously, you don't want to be too hard on him for that race. They went 2 turns last time. It didn't really work out for him. Actually, we'll take a look at the replay of that race right now, because both he and the number 3, Allure of Money, are coming out of this race, the New York Derby, last month at Finger Lakes. And here's the replay of the stretch run anyway. And these 2 horses are right alongside each other, dueling all through the stretch. It's actually a pretty game try here from Maker's Candy. He will be denied by Allure of Money down to the wire in this race. It's just at least worth pointing out that you can go back and pull the full replay of this race, because Maker's Candy was a huge favorite here, a very, very short price. But he did stumble at the start. He got bumped. He wound up last, and his rider, Jose Ortiz, was up there to ride him. Briefly took him in hand back to last, like he was going to sit, and then he didn't. He just raced up 3-4 wide on the first turn, went up to contest the pace. So he had to do a lot of running after some trouble at the start, and maybe it cost him at the end. I don't want to, make too many excuses for him, but he ran fine last time. And I guess the bigger point is I just wouldn't, make too much about the distance and the loss at a short pace. I don't think the distance is a big issue for this horse. It's probably the horse to beat. Allure of Money was in that replay we just saw. It's not like there's, a ton to knock about this horse. He's 4 for 6 in his career. He just came up with a really big win in that New York Derby that we just watched, where he did get a good trip in there. He sat right up close to a long shot on the lead, and then he had to go. When Maker's Candy made an early move to him, they just went with it, and they raced for a long way. And to this horse's credit, he would not let Maker's Candy get by, and he prevailed at the end. I thought he earned that victory. He also won around 2 turns, 2 starts back, and he won that race easily. He also won around 2 turns in his second career start as a 2-year-old, and he won that race easily. And they're the 3 fastest races of his career. The distance is no problem for this horse. He's probably a little bit underrated. Probably be a fair price right back in this race, and he's far from impossible. The number 4 is Mariachi. This horse is going to be speed in here. Ran really well in both of his starts as a 2-year-old sprinting. He debuted in a really fast race for New York Breds and was narrowly second best. He came right back and dominated maidens before the layoff. He kind of felt like he might have needed the first start back this year. They went 7 with him off the layoff. He wound up, he tried to rate early in that race, and then he just made the early move and had to duel with the runner-up of that race through the stretch. He wound up getting just a little tired at the end, but I thought he ran really, really well that day. And then he came back going 6th in his most recent start. He just easily handled that field, basically wire-to-wire fashion, 93 Beyer speed figure. He's got talent. All of his races are fast. He's never been beyond 7 furlongs. The distance is obviously the big question here. He should be on the lead. He's the first foal from this dam who was a multiple stakes winner, or sister to a multiple stakes winner, who could get a distance of ground. This is a Broman female family, and there are several distance influences on the bottom of this pedigree, including horses like Friends Lake and Anti-Spend. So there's pedigree here to get this distance, and we know that he's talented enough to win. Jackson Heights is up next. He's the horse who is going to be sitting back in this race and just hoping that this pace really goes in front of him. Right now, on the way into this race, he's 1 for 8 in his career. The one win came in the Bertram F. Bongard going 7 as a 2-year-old last year, and it was a race where that pace went in front of this horse. He sat back in last, and then he came with a run through the stretch and ran down the odds-on favorite to prevail with a 77 Beyer. So we know that he can sit back and make a run. He tried it last time going this distance in an entry-level allowance race, and he was only second best to a horse, Colloquy, who's in really good form right now. He ran fine in there. I do think he needs to improve here. He probably needs to catch a break or two, and I guess one of those breaks could be a fast pace in front of him. He's not impossible. I didn't love him. Drake's Passage is up next. He's 2-1 on the morning line. There's plenty to like about this horse, who ran pretty well, I thought, in his dirt debut. It was his second career start. He was 3rd best that day, but he ran pretty well on a muddy track. His next start in December, also on a muddy track. That one was sealed, though, going a mile. I thought he ran really well breaking his maiden. He had enough speed to keep up close, but he didn't go for the front in that race. He just stayed on the outside all the way around the track in that race. And everybody tried to gun him down through the stretch. And I just sort of felt like he was always holding them. It was a really nice performance, even though it wasn't particularly fast. He came off the layoff back in early July, another 1-mile Belmont, and he did run the fast race that day. 90 Beyer speed figure. Had to tap the brakes just a little bit behind the horse on the lead up the backstretch, but he got out into the clear. Won that race really easily. It came back fast. The aforementioned Colloquy was 3rd in that race, and he came back to win his next start pretty impressively. So there's a lot to like about this horse. The distance feels like it's no issue for him. And as opposed to some of the others, he doesn't really need to be part of this pace. He'll probably sit somewhere off it and then try to make a run. He's got to get the 2-turn mile and an 1/8 here. He's got the pedigree to do it. It seems like he's got the running style to do it. Miracle Mike completes the field on the outside for trainer Todd Pletcher. And he's just, let's be honest, he's just a little bit hard to make a case for in this Albany. They'll take a shot here. He's a horse whose lone career win came 2 starts back on the turf from well off the pace. It was against maiden $40,000 claiming horses, and he got the job done with the 66 Beyer. You don't worry about distance necessarily with him. The questions are, is he good enough? Can he take advantage even if this pace is fast? Can he run, a much improved race on dirt here? He got rained off in his most recent start, and he was really never a factor against open allowance horses, starter allowance horses. Now he's back in with New York Breds. I don't know. I thought he was hard to make a case for it. It's Pletcher, it's IRAD, and maybe he's a pretty fair price in this race. So those are the positives. I thought he was pretty hard to make in this Albany Stakes on Sunday. The feature at Saratoga. It's going to go as race number 10 with an approximate post time of 6:14 Eastern time. Let's take a look at the picks, though, because, well, I'm not really against Maker's Candy. I'm not really against Mariachi, although he's not the kind of horse I tend to bet on. I think they're both nice horses. I'm going to take Drake's Passage in here. I think it's the right spot for him. I think the distance is good for him. I think he could get the right trip in this race. And he probably won't be the favorite. So all those things sort of conspired to me wanting Drake's Passage over Maker's Candy in the Albany Stakes. Sunday's feature at Saratoga goes as race number 10. Good luck.